Hey, Travis Pastrana here. Welcome to the Skinny.
From the Fatheads Eyewear Studio in Speedway, Indiana, this is The Skinny. Brought to you by Toyota and General Tire. This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by Toyota.
I couldn't be more excited for the guest that we have here today. He's as big as anybody that we've had on this show, and I promise you we've had the who's who over the course of the past couple of years. Rico Elmore will join me here today. We have Track Dude back there running the controls, Michael Young, and of course I'm Ken Stout. There's only a handful of people that have been able to transcend the motorsports industry into a household name. Mario Andretti certainly is one of those that comes to mind right off the bat. I think John Force is probably in that arena. And in this guest, I think a good example would also be Evel Knievel was a household name. So whenever I say that, it's an extremely difficult thing to do. And this guy's certainly has a lack of fear, at least compared to us mere mortals. And his extreme ability to pull off the successful stunts and things that he's done over the course of his career have helped make him a household name. He's done it truly in a lane of his own. He's blazed his own path and has really opened up the door for many others. And the dichotomy of his personality to go along with it makes absolutely no sense. One of the most competitive guys you will ever meet, a champion at the highest levels of the game, which proves his desire to win and what it takes to get there. He has all of that, but then to talk to him, he is the nicest, kindest, most gentle guy you could ever meet. You wonder how all that could be combined inside of one person, but that is truly Travis Pastrana, 199. And I would borderline say that even the 199 has become merely almost a household name. You could go by 199 and not even say Travis Pastrana, but welcome to the show, man. They don't come any bigger than you. We appreciate the time.
Shoot, I'm going to hire you as my agent. That was a great introduction. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Hey, before we get started, and there's no matter how long we talk here, we'll never be able to cover all the cool stuff that we could cover with you. But first and foremost, let's talk about your health. Fresh off of a gnarly accident, man. Tell us how you're sitting up and you're smiling. You're not in the hospital, and no better guy to be interviewing you than a guy fresh off the table himself with a full knee replacement here. So I've got a bag of narcotics in my pocket if you need them.
Well, I've got a pee bag, so we're working on the same program.
How you feeling, man?
I mean, I'll have a knee replacement here. They say probably within the next 10 years, but I don't know. You're positive reinforcement for me, man. You're looking good, looking like you're getting around. They had you up walking day one, already back on your podcast. So definitely things are looking promising. Modern orthopedics, I tell you.
Yeah, man, and you got to be strong. I got 280 pounds I got to push around here, so you'll be way better than me.
There's a couple 80-year-old women that are outdoing him in physical therapy.
That's true. That would be true. So talk to me about what happened there on that base jump. I know we kind of talked about it a little bit before, and I'm sure people have Googled it to learn a little bit, but tell us what happened, man. What went wrong on that deal?
No, it's interesting. I've been battling my whole life with, kind of the fun side, the why we started in motorsports, why I got into dirt bikes, kind of the shenanigans, if you will, the base jumping, the skydiving, the all the things, the freestyle motocross that go along with racing, and I had an awesome opportunity through Ken Block to do basically the Gymkhana series, which is arguably the biggest, car YouTube video movie, whatever you want to call it, stunt movie of all time. And Ken was generous enough to let me kind of jump in on what he's created. And I thought no better way to start off an iconic driving video than doing a base jump. Front flip out of a hotel room, of course, made total sense in my head. And I'm not a great base jumper, as it turns out, and I fumbled my landing a little bit. Broke my back, my hip, my pelvis, and got a screw through my sacrum. A couple blood transfusions. Still have a nice catheter in, and going to miss the first round of the rally championship because of this. So, definitely still getting a lot of flack on why do you do the things you do? when you could just do this, or you could be better at this if you didn't do that. But at the end of the day, I think kind of who I've become and why I've been able to do the things I've been able to do is because, we always push the envelope. We always have fun. At the end of the day, if you're not having fun, it's not worth it, and it's definitely been a wild ride.
Yeah, I know that the wise idea was this was going to happen when we were all in Vegas together for the truck race. So glad that didn't happen. Glad that
Nah, it would
we
have
were
worked
able to.
great then. I just messed up. I told my wife, she's like, I don't like base jumping. I don't like base jumping. I'm like, oh, don't worry. This one's foolproof. Can't possibly mess it up. So, like, I call her in the ambulance going to the hospital because we did it at daybreak, just at dawn because it's less wind usually. And I was like, so yeah, I kind of had a little bit of a mishap.
Oh
I
boy.
think I'm bleeding out into my belly. My back feels broken, but don't worry, I'll be fine.
Oh my God.
How many of those calls has she gotten?
Too many, probably too
Yeah.
many. I don't know. Even one's too many, but God bless her. She puts up with me, and I tell you, my wife's 2-time world champion in skateboarding, and they say, oh, you must be raising your kids very in the extreme world, but I think Lindsay's definitely more extreme with the kids than I am. I'm like that. I'm not quite a helicopter parent, but definitely more so than Lindsay as far as knowing what can go wrong and trying to make sure that it doesn't happen to them. But they're definitely both of my girls are pretty brave, I guess, considering their peer group. But it's fun. They're in cheer, so a totally different world than I'm used to.
Well, it sounds like your dad. I mean, I watched where your dad jumped out of the tree. I was watching some old video, and I remembered, from the past watching some stuff with your dad, and of course, the support your mom and dad had given you through along the way, and your mom working that speed back. You definitely probably didn't mess with her, right?
No, I definitely. I mean, my dad was in the Marine Corps, so if you slept till 7 o'clock, in the morning on a Sunday, you were a lazy pile of crap. So, definitely good to have that work ethic. I think I learned a lot from him, but definitely I was much more afraid of my mom. She was harped a lot on the education side of things. She believed in me a lot more than my dad did. He's like, look, his brother was quarterback for Denver Broncos and still ended up teaching health and football and wrestling coach at Anne Arundel Community College, and worked construction with my dad and his other brothers on their, during his summer vacation. So he's like, look, best athletes ever come out of our county, maybe our state. And he's still working construction and teaching health at a community college. He's like, you're never going to make it as a professional athlete, but any day
I,
that
I
you're doing what you love, ride that train till the wheels fall off.
I loved how he was teaching you how to drive the Bobcat at about I don't know, you were maybe 4, maybe 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, not just before my 3rd birthday, I knocked down a wall with it. So,
Oh my
I,
God. You were 2 years old. Wow.
yeah. I mean, that was. I think about my granddaughter, right?
Right.
I'm like, there's no way I would put her on that. That is a horrible idea.
no, it was a horrible idea, but it was fun.
I put my daughter on a riding mower when we lived in Jersey. We had a big backyard, and I put her on. I had just a John Deere riding mower, and I don't know how old she was. She had to be, I don't know, maybe 5, 6 years old, somewhere up in that neighborhood. And watching her cruise around, she had this huge backyard that she could play in, and somehow managed to run right over the top of the grill, which of course had the gas line connected to it underneath
Oh
the
no!
ground. So. And then she didn't crash. She didn't fall off of it, which is my big concern, And you see it happening, and I'm thinking to myself, well, certainly she's going to turn, But nope, she never turns. So it kind of reminded me of that, to be honest with you. It brought back a good memory.
Yeah,
Kids are wild. I've learned a lot from my girls and my daughter. So we had them riding the little 170cc kind of carts, and my daughter again. She's 5, but she's doing some jumps and cruising around and like on motorcycles and everything, and she just ran straight into a tree and she was crying. She's like, I'm never wearing a seatbelt again, and she had like a little bruise across her chest. I was like, no, that seatbelt actually saved you from smashing your head against the tree. It's like, really? Yeah, nothing common about sex, but trying to get that in there.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. So we were talking about it prior to the show starting, and man, Red Bull forever and Black Rifle Coffee now, which, everything I've seen of those guys, and listen, the Red Bull guys, great guys, but Black Rifle got a great story behind it. Tell us about that.
It's awesome. Honestly, everything that I've been doing in the last couple years, really similar to when, because Subaru was, or not Subaru, sorry, Suzuki. When I was riding factory Suzuki in motocross and supercross back in 2001, 2002, there was this Sobe Suzuki team, so we didn't really have a choice. And Red Bull was like, "Hey, look," and they brought me over to Europe, and they helped me basically get into car racing, and they did a lot for me even when I was still not a Red Bull athlete. And as companies grow and whatnot, Red Bull has done so much for my career. They've done so much for action sports. But really, over the last probably maybe 8 years, I've been really good friends with a couple of the owners from Black Rifle. And, the company started off, pretty small 8 years ago, where it wasn't, they didn't really have the means to do what a Red Bull could do. And all of a sudden, exponentially, it's growing. And, Black Rifle, they were helping so much. I mean, we went to, Hurricane Maria came along and ended up, which was a great, horrible idea. We're actually signed up with Kevin Windham and Ryan Sipes to represent Team Puerto Rico because they didn't have the funding to send a team because of the hurricane. And we went down and raised some money, raced the Motocross of Nations, qualified for the final, which was shocking for a bunch of old guys. And then went down and used all the money that we made to go down and put some roofs on some houses, but really just bring some fun back to kind of the kids in the moto industry in Puerto Rico. Fixed up a couple tracks that weren't running for almost 2 years by the time we got down there. And Black Rifle came in and they spent $100,000 of their own money, like the owners of Black Rifle did privately, and came down and they brought all kinds of guys that were construction crews and personally came down themselves to work for 2 weeks down there with us and didn't want anything out of it at all. They just were coming down because it was a cool cause. And we got Walter Reed right up the road, and they just have all these plans for like, hey, look, anything we can do to help the community, anything we can do to especially the veteran community and in the U.S. We want to be America's brand. And a lot of the stuff I couldn't do because I was with Red Bull. So honestly, it's not nothing against Red Bull. Red Bull's been absolutely amazing. Black Rifle's like, look, we don't even have anything against Red Bull. We're actually going to sponsor you, so we can just hang out and do more cool stuff and give back more to the communities and really just have more fun. So definitely Red Bull still doing some projects as a kind of a family or friend of Red Bull, if you will. But at the end of the day, getting older, drinking more coffee, and the guys at Black Rifle, it's a really awesome opportunity at this point in their brand and this point in my life to be able to do some cool stuff. And especially now my older daughter actually getting into kind of writing movies, believe it or not. And she can barely write, but she just really likes, whole directing and kind of writing stories and short stories really. But, all the guys, JT especially, and his daughters are the same age. They all go to iFly. They actually Black Rifle invested in iFly. Like a lot of the stuff that's right up our alley, it just all fits with the family. And as far as the family tie, there's no better brand for me right now than the coffee company of Black Rifle.
What a great story, man. I did not see it going that way. I mean, my question was going to be that had to be an extremely tough decision. You walk back into the dining room with your wife and say, honey, I just was offered this incredible program from Black Rifle Coffee, but I would have to get rid of Red Bull. That's what I'm thinking in my mind. But you're telling me they're playing ball together to some degree, and man, that's an absolute beautiful thing.
Not necessarily playing ball together. I mean, definitely Red Bull sees it a little differently than Black Rifle. Black Rifle is basically like, hey, let's just have a lot of fun, man. This is going to be awesome. And whatever we have to do to support the industry, support the sports, they're fans of action sport, especially JT, Jared Taylor. He's been a huge supporter of everything action sports. And, they brought Pilot X in. I had this grand scheme idea from Nate Wessel, and he's like, oh, we should have a helicopter with a minigun and Pilot X blowing up some cars while Ronnie Mack jumps over top with an American flag cape and you slide underneath. And Black Rifle's like, yeah, let's do it. And I mean, exponentially money per reward, it didn't make any sense, but they were like, this is going to be the greatest picture of all time. And they did it. And, I'm not saying that our relationship is going to be extremely smart relationship, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So, Lindsay coming from the skate background, people just, they don't leave Red Bull. Red Bull's done so much. They have a very good brand. The athletes they sponsor, they generally tend to keep lifelong, and definitely, no hard feelings there. They've been awesome to me and helped build my career. But like I said, this is just an awesome opportunity to have some great fun with friends. And my parents, since day one, my dad always said, "You're never going to make it." But, like I said earlier, but if you can have fun, do what you love, keep doing it. And I think this is a perfect place for me.
We just scratched the surface of one of the all-time greats and Travis Pastrana. We're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be right back on the other side.
This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by General Tire. It's more than just a slogan. Anywhere is possible with General Tire. General Tire's Grabber X3 mud terrain tire offers aggressive styling and is engineered for durability with innovative performance features that are ready to carry you through extreme mud, dirt, and rock-covered terrain. For extreme traction that's ready for anything and rugged styling to match, look no further than the Grabber X3. Make your anywhere possible by visiting GeneralTire.com today.
Once again, we are back here with one of the most exciting guests, in my personal opinion, that we've had on the show. And Travis Pastrana has taken a few minutes as he is recovering from a nasty crash that he had just a couple of weeks ago. But looking forward to another season, another successful season, I should say, behind the wheel of that incredible Subaru rally car. We'll talk to him about that in the future here, probably next segment or so. But I want to go back to something that you had said as you were talking about Black Rifle coming on board here and some of the ideas that were initially thrown out. And it almost reminds me of what's the show from Family Guy? What was that show he watched? 3.5 days or 7.5 days or?
Oh yeah. 6 days to show.
6 days to show.
Not Family Guy. South Park.
South Park, where they all get together, and they come up with ideas. So I've often wondered, how does that process work with you guys? Is everybody sitting around at the dinner table later and you just come up with the ideas? I mean,
and I want to throw in on that, the limo, ramping the limo with the hot tub in the back with Connor and Jim. And I think you were driving it. Just trying to get my head around.
No, the Stig was driving. The Stig was driving.
Oh, the
Okay.
Stig, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I may or may not have been allowed to have been in that.
Everybody just sits around and literally throws out the craziest wild idea, and you guys decide, that one might work.
Back when we first started working on MTV with a lot of the producers, Knoxville and Tremaine, all the Jackass guys, they always came out with ideas. We said, okay, look. If you're going to come up with an idea, you have to be willing to do it first. So Jim York, unfortunately now, our whole crew, really, everyone just has seen, we've had enough success that people don't question us. So if we're like, we got this cockamamie idea to do something absolutely insane, people are like, yeah, it makes sense. They'll pull it off. So we actually have to really think everything through before we mention anything, for sure. It was like the Evel Knievel deal. It was such a cool opportunity where History Channel came and they said, what do you have to do? What can you guys do at Nitro Circus where we can really get back to the roots of action sports? And, Dave Mateus said, we got to do something with Evel Knievel. And I was like, oh, cool. We got to jump the buses. We got to jump the cars. Or what about Caesar's Palace? And a day later, we had confirmation from Greyhound. We had confirmation from Caesars that we could jump it. We had all the Evel Knievel, all of his, basically all his kids, his 3 kids were all on board. And I'm like, wow, careful what you ask for. Here we go. We're going to be jumping a no suspension motorcycle. And when I say we, I mean me and the mouse in my pocket. But
that's why
good time.
That's why I was getting ready to say I didn't see anybody else but you on that bike. So
yeah. But the coolest thing about Black Rifle is going into that business meeting for the first time. They're all, Logan, they're like Green Berets at, and their dev group and their, SEALs, and they're all the top of military. I've never felt like more of a sissy going into a boardroom. I'll like tell a story and be like, yeah, and then they'll tell a story and I'm like, I'm just gonna shut up and be back in the corner, like with my tail between my legs. Like I got nothing that compares to anything these guys have been through, the injuries they've been through, the trauma they've been through, and there's no fame or glory. It's just these guys, they did it for the country, and it's pretty amazing to be a part of a company where, I don't know if the guys have any business sense or anything, but I tell you, their way they live their life, their fundamentals, their passions, and what they want to accomplish is all right along the lines of how I was brought up. We had a very military family. My wife's dad was a Marine. My dad was a Marine. My mom's father was in the Navy, or so my grandfather on mom's side. My grandfather on my dad's side was also in the Navy. We lived in Annapolis, which is the Naval Academy. My best friend growing up was a Navy SEAL. So even though I'm not part of the military and I have no idea what it's like to have people shoot at me or anything like that, I don't even want to pretend I know anything about that. But I feel like to a certain extent, that camaraderie that those guys have, and kind of knowing what it's like to have someone else have your life in their hands and vice versa, and just kind of the way they go about their business is really cool. So walking into a room like that, when they're like, okay, we should probably have a plane. I'm like, what kind of plane should we have for Black Rifle? I was like, that's a cool concept. And I'm thinking like jets and whatever. They're like, C-130. And I looked at them like,
Oh boy.
what? How fast is C-130 goes? Like what? 250 miles an hour? They're like, yeah, but the best part is we could have like ping pong tables, and then we could just pick people up in fields. I'm like, excuse me? Like, well, I haven't done it since the 70s, but we could probably perfect it with modern technology.
Wow.
Like, yeah, you can hook yourself to a balloon. They used to do it back in the 60s and 70s, back in Vietnam, and they put people. You'd be in a field. I guess. I mean, not me personally, but I have a feeling this is going to be in my future, where you have a balloon and the front of the C-130 has a little like V on it, like a little cone. So the C-130 runs into the cone, the balloon goes down, hooks in the top, and then picks you up, and you go flying like behind the plane, and then they winch you back into the back of the plane. So like this is the kind of ideas that they're having on how they're going to pick me up and take me to a rally. I'm like, yeah, this is perfect. This sounds great.
And in their mind, they're like, well, we've got a guy that'll absolutely do it. No matter what our crazy idea is, I know he's going to be in.
He's in.
You're
He's doing
committed
it.
whether you want to be or not.
They're all willing to do it before I say yes. So that's as
Oh.
long as I see one of those guys do it first, I'm totally in.
Dude, I've seen that done before, right? I've seen it on a program before, but I'm telling you, it feels like it would just jerk everything out of you, right?
0 to 200
Yeah, I mean,
instantly.
just like out. I think I'd drop the plane.
There's got to be bungee technology. I'm sure we can come up with something.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
This was back in the 60s and 70s. Come on. I got to see the death to broken back ratio here, but we'll go from there.
Like I said, they'd hook onto me and the plane would nosedive. They're like, nope, that ain't getting him out of here. So,
yeah, there's a max weight on this one for sure for this ride.
yeah.
It's super cool for us, I think, all three of us, to be in the industry as deep as we are. And when you see people like Black Rifle, and there's a million examples, Red Bull, a great example, Lucas Oil, and it goes on and on and on, of the people that get involved in our industry and support it, earn an immediate respect, I think, from all of the people in the industry like us, from our side, as we see what they're doing, whether they're our sponsor or even a competing sponsor to our sponsor, we still have a level of respect for those people that are coming in and helping the industry, generally speaking. And then whenever you can take it a step further, and I don't know if you can go any further than these guys, as you talk about, being on the board and doing what they've done for our country and putting their lives on the line and living in their world of crap, if you will, whenever they were earning their money. Man, I just don't know if it gets any better than a company like that. It's super cool, man. It's a very difficult decision. I can't imagine. I wish I had the problem to make a decision between a couple of companies like that, but
Now you're just trying to make a decision when you need to get up to go to the bathroom.
well, I know early. I know.
You
Yeah,
gotta
I
really
figured that one
plan
out.
that out.
I don't know what time it is. I need to go, but I know it needs to be sooner than I think. So, but at any rate, man, super, super cool. Congratulations on it, and we wish you the best of luck. We love coffee too, man. We're old guys too, so we're up on the coffee.
Big fans, and the I see the Black Rifle guys at the NHRA events that we do. They've got some pretty wild trucks, and so I love the whole thing about it. I mean, we're a huge supporter of the military with fat heads and everything, and but yeah, I mean that's That's really a cool story, and hell, I even love them better now. I mean, it's like I got to go out and buy some because anybody that thinks like a cool plane to get would be a C-130 and yanking people out of fields, I'm like, these are my dudes. That's the gig right there.
And that's how it works, right? I mean, the what you just said, I got to go buy some, and I'm thinking the same thing. I have no problem with buying that product and putting that money back in because I know a portion of it's coming back to our industry as well. So it's super cool, man.
Yeah, you know what's funny? You said Lucas Oil. They actually helped with the whole Puerto Rico thing as well. They jumped on board, and there are definitely companies out there. When you get kind of callous to a lot of things, a lot of companies are doing things because of what they're going to get out of it, and then you have companies that just truly and genuinely want to be a part of it, and that's pretty cool. So I've been very fortunate to be uh, somehow just good enough or just crazy enough or just enough amount of exposure that I've been able to kind of pick and choose the companies that I've been with and got to represent some amazing brands along the way.
We're going to take a quick break here. On the other side, we're going to talk about some racing with Travis Pastrana. Stay with us. Number 199. We'll be right back. This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by Toyota. Welcome back to The Skinny. A very exciting guest on the show with us here today, coming to us remotely from his home, a personal hospital bed. It looks like he's made his way to the couch, actually, but Travis
the couch
Pastrana,
today, only for you guys.
Travis Pastrana in the house with us, man. Couldn't be happier to have him on the show and talking a little bit about the background, his new sponsorship, his new associates, and of course his family, a little bit where he got started. And Rico and I to do a little bit of homework because let's face it, man, you've been in the game for a while now. Went back and watched the 199 Lives movie. Pretty rough movie to watch. I got whenever you watch it, I'm thinking to myself, I think it was made 2008. It was like expecting footage to be pretty decent, but you're watching, it's like, oh my God, this is 1980. But
it was 2008. It may have been made, but that was some old footage.
The footage was old, right?
Oh, it was.
Oh my God!
It was wild. I mean, just watching all the pieces of it, and I'm like, yeah, they weren't using a foam pit. They were using smashing the ground pit. When they would miss something. So,
well, I saw the first segment, and I looked at the views, and it was just short of 48 million views. I was like, oh, my God, that is massive, dude. And as we watch it, of course, it just brings back all these memories. And I know that you've been around for a while, very successful at everything, but I forget stuff like, holy crap, he ran the Des Nations. They won Des Nations with Roger DeCosta, right? I mean,
yeah, Roger was like a father to me, man. The media made it out to where he like we didn't get along, but no, he was awesome, and he was the team manager for Team USA. I was 16 years old, won the U.S. Championship, but against my heroes. I mean, we had Talon Volan and Steve Lampson, who were probably the favorite to be picked to go over, and then Roger went with a rookie and went over with Ricky Carmichael, who won the 250 class, and then honestly, it was amazing that the main rider on the team, or the 500, the open class rider, was actually Ryan Hughes, who hadn't had a great season, but Roger went with heart over anything. And we were able to come back with 2000 Motocross of Nations Championship in St. DG Angeli or whatever. Sorry, my bad. France. There was probably 150,000 screaming people, and they were all booing me. Jumped over the French rider on the last lap to make the pass.
That's what I was getting ready to
go
say.
Number one. Oh, it was great.
Yeah, the jump over literally aired it out and landed way down that hill. And it was so funny. I was watching that, but I had watched a lot of the other footage and knew of all the other, some of the footage as well. But it was like, that looks like where you were running in the woods, where you guys were just out there, not jacking around, more practicing. But that was like something that somebody probably wouldn't really practice that much. Like, hell, he had it in his bag. It was there.
Yeah, it was incredible. 16 years old, if I recall, and wow, man, but that movie brought back some of these memories and just how talented you were, and your dedication to the sport, and seeing you work out the way you were working out. It's when people meet you or they see you for the limited amount of time that they actually see you on television, and they begin to put together their picture of who they think Travis Pastrana is, they would never, I don't think they would ever put together who you were whenever they showed you on some sort of machine working out until you were absolutely all but dead. I mean, 100% all but dead, working as hard as you could possibly work. I mean, there's a lot of world-class athletes that can push themselves up to 99%, but to give 100%, and you clearly had given 100%, like just short of dying on the machine. And I don't think that people know that side of you because you're such a kind, gentle soul. They don't see that work ethic inside of you.
It sounds like you.
No,
Nothing. I
yeah,
got
well,
nothing for this
I,
guy.
no, to to be competitive at the top level of any sport, it takes 100% commitment, and that's at the end of the day. When I was at the races, people are always like, "Man, are you always this happy?" I'm like, if I'm at the races, yeah. If I'm doing what I love to do, I'm pretty giddy. I'm a dork. I just love riding dirt bikes. I love cars. I've been very passionate about what I've done, and that's gone a long way. But like I said, my dad was a Marine, and that work ethic was instilled in me early. If you're successful, I don't care if it's ping pong, foosball, whatever it is, 5 horsepower, Briggs and Strattons. If you're the world champ, you've put in a lot of time. You've worked your butt off, and I've been very fortunate to be able to continue. Every time I've been hurt, it got me into cars and go-karts and everything. And even this last year, this is the first year in car racing where I didn't feel like a gentleman driver. I felt like I belonged. I beat the 2019 world champion in Nitro Rallycross this year. I beat Scott Speed, who was the last American to run in the F1 championship, and multiple-time Rallycross champion. Won the U.S. Rally Championship this year. Got second over against Team McLaren with a Subaru. Their base model car was like $1 million more than my race car was. So, it was a wild year. Set the record again up Mount Washington hill climb in a 980 horsepower absolute beast of a 4-cylinder that had a top speed of 140 miles an hour and a speed zone of 15 mile an hour. So definitely pushed the limits a little bit my whole life. But I found that I'm not always the best at stuff like NASCAR, where Connor Daly in his very first race beat me, which was very devastating. I think you have a story on that one coming up. But yeah, anything that I'm able to take a little bit more risk than the next person and kind of figure out, like, if you put us in a parking lot, right, and you have cones, I'll never beat the Joey Logano's and the Kyle Bushes and the Chase Elliott's. But if you put a big jump or big cliffs or huge trees where those cones are, I still believe that my ability is the same, and I'm going to go just as hard, whether it's a cone or a 200-foot cliff. And that's where my ability lies, and that is why we've won 6 U.S. National Rally Championships and finally got the Rallycross Championship this year.
That brings up a great angle, because if I had to evaluate you, I would say that your lack of ability to run anything at 90% versus 100% is probably what's kept you, that and the fact that you really didn't want to chase it. But if you were dedicated your career towards racing, and maybe that's why you didn't get a 250 win, I don't know, but you're 100%. You love to live on the edge. That's just who you are. It's how you're wired. You love to live at 100%. And a lot of times you got to ride at 90% if you're going to bring the thing home and chase a championship. But for you, it's right on the ragged edge. That's where you're alive. That's what you do. And I think you do it better than anybody else on the planet. And I've got to think that lends itself towards the rally racing that you're doing, because there's a fear factor there for everybody at some level, and yours seems to be much higher than the rest of the world.
Calculated risk versus reward. It's NASCAR. No one's afraid of crashing. I mean, don't get me wrong; it's still dangerous. I mean, you still had Kyle Busch, broke his femur at Daytona and it's a couple years ago. But it's cool now with Rallycross. It's the first sport in a long time that drivers have been coming over. I mean, we had Chase Elliott jumped into a race this year. Kyle Busch jumped into a race this year. looking at more guys from Indy and NASCAR, and maybe even a couple of the guys, former F1 drivers, coming in, for a race or hopefully a whole championship this year. Still working out some things, but it's the first time in forever that, like my dad said, back when men were men. And you actually get to push yourself. You get to the track and you're equal parts scared as you are excited. And I think that's something that's been missing. The racing's great. Don't get me wrong. NASCAR, it's the most competitive sport, I think, in the world. And those drivers are the most underrated drivers in the world. But at the end of the day, to be able to go out and to be able to drive a lap by yourself on a track and be thrilled and have that adrenaline and be excited. I mean, Scott Speed doesn't get excited for anything, and he came off giddy at the second round when, we had a jump that Tanner Faust went over 200 feet on. I mean, yeah, he should have probably broken his back, but he rode out of it.
He rode out of it. Big deal.
It's great stuff, and that's exactly right. And that's where you excel. That's where you shine. Even though there's a tree on the other side, your psyche is, if I do everything right, that tree should never be a factor. So why would I ever?
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Right.
That's exactly it. Let's go back to the NASCAR event, the Truck Series race, right in the middle of the good old COVID. Is that your mailman? Just kidding.
That is my mailman. Yes.
So
sorry,
anyhow,
I can't get up, so we're
good. Yeah. Leave it at the door. Yeah. So anyhow. So Jim, our friend from Pit Viper, decided that he would wager a little bet with me. The two eyewear companies going at it. He started it clearly, and he bet $69 on Travis is faster in the Pit Viper shades, and hashtag I can't read. And I said, BS, I got Connor for 70, faster than TP. He said another couple of words I can't say. I'll call you 420, 69. I said, I'll raise that to 1262, 07, three times your. He goes, that's it, 69, 69, 69. Well, Connor beat Travis, so we're still trying to figure out where this $6,969.69 is
I
at this
like
point.
Your all's math was pretty on point there.
Yeah, and he's trying to play off the Travis, please go fast. Also, I'm too drunk to text. Hello, goodbye.
Yeah, the Pit Viper crew. I mean, and you guys. I mean, obviously, fatheads. You guys were two peas in a pod, and you both had pretty good confidence in your drivers. I'm not really known for my left turning abilities or my pavement abilities or my rear wheel drive abilities, but it was Connor Daly's first ever truck race. I had raced Vegas. I mean, heck, I had been top 10 there in Nationwide or whatever I guess they call it Xfinity now series. Yep. So I was like, I can do this. It's kind of more of a worn out track. It's more of a sliding track. And sure enough, Connor Daly, Fathead's driver who led the most laps this year at the Indy 500, who also jumped in
don't
for.
Don't get me started on that.
Also punted the tire farther than anybody.
Fell out of the sky onto his wing. So,
world record tire punt.
Right in front of our suite in turn 2. I mean, that's where it was over there. And I've got everybody. I'm like, shut up. I don't want to hear it. Like, I'm watching the TV in our suite so I can catch the whole track. And I'm like, where did this come from? Like, I mean,
that's what Connor said. He didn't even see it. He had no idea a tire hit the wall. It came from outer space, dropped right out of the wing. But honestly, if Connor's pit crew, and I don't know, maybe, and I've learned through my racing that maybe you could overshoot your pit or undershoot it. So it could have been Connor's fault, but it looked like the pit crew's fault on TV. I'm not putting blame anywhere. But he went in first, came out in fourth, made it like 3 laps, and then a tire fell out of the sky right on his wing and ruined his chances. But to lead the most laps was pretty cool. And then the fact that he came out later that year and drove NASCAR just for fun, just because we had a $1 bet, a little bit different than your 69 bet. So I agree. Jim should have to pay you. And the fact that Connor got into a limo on an 80-foot jump, And we tried to get Connor to drive because I wasn't allowed to drive because of contractual stipulations. Anyway, long story
You
long.
you couldn't get a Subaru limo to take out there. Or...
Yeah. So what had happened was we filled the limo, the back of it, for actually that was for Twisted Tea, which I was also not allowed to be a part of. Um, anyway, something about drinking and driving doesn't go well. But they weren't drinking; they were in the back of the limo. So technically, I don't know. Maybe that's a loophole. But so Connor's like, I'm not driving, but I'll jump in the back. I'm like, you would really jump into a swimming pool that we made out of a tarp and filled it up with a garden hose of cold water
It,
in
and
really cold weather. You go in the
he told
back
me that
swimming pool over, an 80-foot jump in a limo before you drive it, where the harness and you get to wear a helmet. He's like, yeah, I think so. Because I mean,
Jim,
honestly, last time Connor drove, he flipped my Can-Ams over like 4 times, so it does kind of make sense.
Jim told him Connor's looking around and he said, yeah, when I got in the back of it, he goes, clearly I thought that there would like be handles. And he said to Jim, he goes, where in the hell are we holding on to? He goes, just grab the tarp and kind of wad it up. So they're in the back of this.
Because the water's not going to float out of the back of the limo for any reason, right?
No. Speaking of that 199 Lives movie, part of that was your father talking about you. You had been wanting to go off of some big jump, and he kept saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, and goes in the back to get the loader to make another jump, and somebody comes running over and says, Mr. Pastrana, Travis is hurt. And I guess you'd gone, he said he went off the big jump, didn't he? And, of course, you had balled it up, and it was just before, I want to say, the start of a season.
Yep. Tibia plateau fracture, torn ACL, bucket handle meniscus. I pretended I wasn't hurt and raced the first round and crashed again in the first round. And that was it for my season. Then I got the X-rays and everything. They're like, "What were you thinking?" I'm like, I was just thinking I didn't want to get killed by my dad.
Is that what it was? Because they said DeCoster was upset with you, and you're like, "No, man, I'll be fine, dude. I'm gonna win."
Yeah, well, Roger had a love-hate with me. So I was supposed to go out and do my first ever pro race with Suzuki. Just turned 16, and I neglected to mention that. So I was going to get there on Wednesday morning to do a test before the first ever World Supercross out at the Rose Bowl, and I was going to be my first time representing Suzuki 125s, and I neglected to mention that I was going on Letterman in New York the night before, and I was going to do a jump, and I crashed because it was raining a little bit, and I hit a fire hydrant off the side, and
boy.
dislocated, and I had second-degree separation of my left shoulder. So I got there, and I couldn't practice, and I couldn't test, and I couldn't do anything, and I was like, Roger, I'll win this weekend. He's like, win? You can't even ride. And I won by dumb luck, and I was crying the whole time, but I made it through the end. And from that point, he kind of had that all right, well, at least he's tough. He's stupid, but he's tough.
Yeah.
Can we all agree that you clearly have much less pain receptors than the rest of us mere mortals? I mean, for whatever reason, pain does not register in your brain the way it does to the rest of us.
Oh, no, it definitely registers. It's all the same. It's just a matter of, is it worth it? And for me, everyone says, how could you possibly keep doing this to your body over and over? I said, because when I'm hurt, what I don't like more, what I'm more upset about, isn't the fact that I'm hurt, as in pain. It's the fact that I can't do what I love to do. So why should I stop doing what I love to do to avoid being hurt?
Yeah, well, I mean, I saw a quick clip where there's pins sticking out of your hand, and you grab one of the pins with a pair of pliers. I'm thinking,
well, they were medical pliers. I was in the doctor's office. I'm good friends with my orthopedics. They usually let me put pins out and stuff. But no, so this last time I crashed the base rig, and I land, and there, medics come over, and I'm like, no, I'm fine. And I go to get up, and I felt my sacrum actually kind of moved, and I was like, yep, broke my pelvis, and then I had a warm feeling going into my gut. I said, and I'm bleeding out, and they started laughing. I was like, no, I'm actually serious. I broke my pelvis for sure, and I'm definitely bleeding out. And I started laughing because I either cry or laugh. So I figured, yeah, they didn't believe me, and they're like, oh yeah, sure. I'm like, sure enough, I'm usually pretty good at self-diagnostics.
It reminds me of that one big jump where you cased it hard, and was it your pelvis on the whole? They didn't think anything was wrong with you, and the doctor said, "Okay, you can get up now." Your mom's like losing her mind, like, "Are you crazy?" But the whole center section, if you will, of your pelvis of your body had dropped down like I don't know half an inch or something.
That's what he's talking about.
Is that the
where it's
one? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, actually, so this one I did that. I was actually a third known case to not bleed out after dislocating both of your SI joints. So basically shattering your hip or your pelvis. So your spine goes kind of out. Anyway, long story long. The non-medical term is it would hurt a lot. So every time but I didn't really break anything except for the pelvis, and the doctors hadn't seen that before, just because it was they say the third known case at the time. But interestingly enough, it just ripped all the ligaments and the tendons and everything around it. So when I was laying on my back, it still registered as though it was in the right spot. But whenever I try to move, my spine would basically move. Not the spinal cord or column was fine, but I passed out, and I realized how much pain I could take because, I mean, other people might be able to take more, but that was all I could take before I passed out. So I realized I taken the most pain that I could ever take, and there's not a lot more to worry about.
It's unbelievable what you've been through, and the fact that you go back and continue to attack at full speed, man, is nothing short of spectacular. That's why you're a household name. It's why it's who you are. You said that going back to the very beginning of the show. I was like, man, that's what got me here. That's just who I am, and I'm having fun. But talk to me about 2022. What's the future look like for Travis Pastrana? Some of the stuff that's coming up, Nitro Circus. You're due for another one of those movies, 199 Lives. I mean, it's certainly ready for an update. It's been a little while now. You could fill in another hour, 20 minutes easily. But what's going on in your world?
You know, at the moment, this break has gotten me a little bit of time to spend at home with my wife and my kids, and definitely have always appreciated the reset. Unfortunately, it comes at a price, obviously, but missing the first round of the U.S. Rally Championship, the ARA Championship, actually. So that puts me on my heels. But in the U.S. Championship, you can actually drop 2 rounds of the 10. So going to try to reclaim that championship. Nitro Rallycross, we're going to go global this year. We have 3 rounds in Europe, 1 round in Saudi Arabia for the championship for the final round. So that'll be awesome. Working on tracks. Trying to get the rallycross to take back off like we know it can, and even at last year I called up Kyle Busch. I was like, hey, do you want to run a Nitro Rallycross? He's like, yeah, it sounds great. It's like, really? It's not what I expected. But it's cool to see. Yeah, it's just cool to see how many drivers are getting involved. We got a full class now on the FC1X, which is a full electric class. It's got over 1,000 horsepower. That's 0 to 60 miles an hour, 1.4 second, a mini SUV. So that's going to be wild to try to figure that out. So yeah, like I said, last year was the first year I felt like a real driver. First year that, it was more than just, like Ken Block and I have always said, are the 2 best gentleman drivers out there. We love rally. We love driving. We do it because it's our passion, but we have other stuff going on with Nitro Rally, with Nitro Circus, and he has Hoonigan and DC and all this stuff. But we're able to race more and more as we get older, and we're getting more and more competitive. He's actually winning the East African Safari Classic Rally right now, and he's always driving. So it'd be good to have Ken Block back in the U.S. Championship, as well as Irish Tarmac Champion. It's going to be great. Barry McKenna, Brandon Semenuk won the last round last year. He's probably the most underrated rally driver maybe in the world right now, where because he comes from mountain bikes, and he still won the world championship last year in mountain biking, and is competing and beating the best in the U.S., which is pretty impressive.
That's exactly why we're talking to you today. It's why we love to watch you, and the memories you've brought all of us throughout our entire lives, man. Oh my goodness, could never thank you enough.
No, I truly appreciate it. It's been awesome, and just like I said, like my dad always said, we're just trying to ride this train till the wheels come off, and a couple have come off along the way. But man, if you love what you do, every single day is a true blessing, and I've been very fortunate to live my dream.
You got MacGyver in your corner. Put those wheels back on, no problem.
That's right. That's right.
All right, thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you enjoyed this show, man. It doesn't get any better than this guy right here. Keep your eyes on him. He'll be competing here again in 2022 for our pleasure and our enjoyment, but he's going to be having all the fun. Thanks a lot, Travis Pastrana, here on The Skinny. Thanks for being with us here on The Skinny. This episode has been brought to you by Toyota and General Tire. For the latest in sunglasses, optical frames, accessories, and apparel, be sure to check out fatheads.com. That's Fatheads with a Z. Production facilities provided by Fatheads Eyewear Studios. All rights reserved.